If you've ever struggled to balance your career with your family lifestyle goals, this episode is for you. I'm going to uncover some of the strategies that have allowed me to be in pursuit of alignment and how I've been able to hack my way through maintaining both a fantastic family life with a thriving business career. Let's dive in. This is something that is very near and dear to my heart. I'm very passionate about conveying the alignment that we must pursue in order to fulfill not just our business goals, our financial goals, but most importantly, creating it in a way that allows us to feel that our values are aligned and that we're able to show up as our best selves, to be of service to the world, to be of service to our families. In my journey building multiple businesses, building a university program, and throughout it all, juggling my own life as a mother of two and a wife, I've had to learn in many instances how to shift my attention from what I thought I needed to actually what was going to be required for me to get to the goals that I was aiming for. Meaning, rather than being driven by just the final destination, the end goal, being able to be present with every milestone of your life and knowing that unless you are aware of your self-care, unless you are mindful of preserving the relationships that matter to you, unless you are constantly looking for ways to uplevel yourself internally through your own personal development, none of the things you're going to create in your business are going to matter, right? So I want you to understand that when you build your career as a musician entrepreneur, it's really easy to get into a mode of just work, 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 and hustle and grind, and just constantly be driven by the next project, the next milestone. And oftentimes, I hear musicians and creatives who only make changes when they hit a significant rock bottom moment, whether it's a health crisis, whether it's a severe disruption in their relationships, whether it's an event that you never thought would happen and just kind of surprises you. And only in that moment are significant changes done. And I'll be honest, I have had many moments that I've personally felt were rock bottom, where I've seen, my health deteriorate, where I've seen my relationship suffer, where I've seen, the life that I was building fall out of alignment with what I knew I wanted. And so sometimes it's necessary to have those wake up calls to prompt us into action. But truly, my intention in today's episode is to help you prevent getting yourself to a rock bottom moment and instead create a proactive attitude of ongoing maintenance, ongoing preventative care to your lifestyle goals, driven by the clarity of your purpose. When you are clear on what your goals are, when you are able to take some time from the day to day of your busy life and be able to step outside and say, let me clarify, what do I really want my life to look like? How do I want to build this business? What is the schedule that I want to have? How can I make sure that everything I'm doing is in alignment with my values, with my vision? Then the more you spend time connecting with that vision, the clearer you get and the more you're able to protect your time and your attention so that you don't fall out of alignment and you don't find yourself in these rock bottom moments. And it's interesting that I'm making this episode today because actually I've been this weekend flying solo as a single mom. My husband's out of town, and I'll share a funny story that got me to reflect on why I'm making this episode. So I was really rushed this morning trying to get my boys to summer camp and wanting to make sure that I dropped them off early enough so that I would have time to come back and make it to camp and do all the things that I need to do, and make it to my own team meetings and just be in this place of alignment, right, with what I needed to do to start my day. And I was so in a hurry to just get the boys out on time to get their everything needed. I prepared their lunch boxes, I prepared their water bottles, I got them breakfast, got them their vitamins. I felt like a pro, and I was there 15 minutes early than their usual drop off time. And I felt like I was super mom. Yes, I did it. I got them out the door. And guess what happened? I was so driven on just getting them out on time and getting there early and getting ready for my day that when I got there, I actually had left their lunch boxes and their waters in the kitchen. So I had to turn around, and it's a 25-minute drive or so. It's not a close drive for my standards here. Usually my husband's the one that drives them. So today I was like, okay, I'm going to drive them. I'm going to take them. I'm going to get this done. Boys, let's get out of the house. And when I got there, I realized that I had to do it all over again. I was going to need to go back. I was going to need to get back to my car, drive all the 25-minute drive back to my home, pick up the lunch boxes, and spend another 20 minutes driving back to the camp, and then drive back home for another 20 minutes. So I basically wasted almost an hour and a half of my morning simply because of what? Because I was so driven with the end goal. I was so driven with just getting them out of the house on time, getting them on early, getting things ready so I can start my day and do everything that I was like in this momentum, forward momentum, right? That I missed the moment of picking up the lunchboxes, getting the waters, being present, taking my time, and to enjoy more the process of getting the kids out of the house. Had I taken the step and been more mindful and been more aware, I would probably have grabbed the lunchboxes that I prepared anyway. It's not like I forgot making their lunchboxes. I had made their lunchboxes. I had everything ready. I just forgot to grab them and take them in the car. But it was interesting because on one hand, of course, as I arrived there, I was like, oh no, I forgot. Like now I have to drive back. But then as I was driving back and reflecting on this, I was like, this is yet one more lesson that I get to learn about being present, about being able to not feel a sense of rush, not sense a sense of just wanting to be in the next stage of the thing, right? And not just not wanting to just get to the next thing in a rush, but to be actually more like aware of every moment of the process. There's a song that I sing my sons every night when I put them to bed that's inspired by John Lennon's Beautiful Boy. And there's a phrase in that song that says, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. And I love that part of the song because that's exactly what I felt, right? As I was driving back to need another hour and a half drive, I was thinking that's exactly what happened to me. I was busy making other plans, and what happened to me was I missed on the essentials. And so this is just a very funny story to kind of share what my day-to-day life looks like. I'm making this episode to share with you not what it's like to be the wise guru at the top of the mountain telling you how to live a life of zen and alignment. It's to actually to share with you my own journey and the things that I use to help me bring myself back to center, to help me get back in alignment all the time because I'm constantly in this battle, this back and forth. And I at this stage in my life, I take it with a playful attitude because I think that's the only way we can live life. Not taking yourself too seriously, not feeling guilty. I think for a long time in my career and in my life, as certainly as I became a mom and then a mom of two, I felt this guilt like, oh my gosh, why can't I get it all together? Why don't I have all my ducks in a row? Why don't I get it all at the same time? Why don't I have everything at once? And to be honest, the more I let go of that feeling of needing to have everything perfect, needing to have the perfect lifestyle, needing to have the perfect balance, and instead knowing that this is a game, this is a constant sport, this is a constant pursuit. As long as you develop the muscle to come back to center when things fall out of alignment, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Don't need to feel guilty. You don't need to feel like either you have alignment or you don't. That's why this episode isn't about how to have alignment. This is about how to pursue, how to have tools, resources, strategies to not take yourself too seriously and to be mindful every moment of your life as much as you can to create the right alignment, to find that balance, if you will, right? So these things happen to me all the time. And I honestly feel it's going to come down to your decision making habits. When you, number one, don't take this too seriously, when you're not feeling guilty about not being able to be present when you needed to or not being able to do this, but instead you just look at this with a playful mindset and you try to say, okay, what are some hacks that I could use, practically speaking, to start putting myself back in alignment when I fall out of it, right? The first thing is being mindful about the boundaries that you set, right? One of the things that you're going to want to look at is how does your schedule reflect your values? So many times I have found myself say, I want to do something. I want to exercise, let's say. I want to fit in doing this or doing this in my life, going to bed earlier, spending more time with my family or, practicing more. And yet when I looked at my calendar, there was no congruence between what I said I wanted and what I actually had in my schedule. So I want you to think about this. Number one is, can you start by looking at your calendar and looking at your goals and coming clear to, what are your goals? What do you really want? What is the ideal picture for you, for your life, for your family life? And then can you match that with what you currently have in your calendar? Chances are your calendar will not reflect those goals at the beginning. However, you are able to look through them and start making some changes and reverse engineering what are the steps you're going to need to take to make those changes. How can you change this so that you actually can see alignment between what you say you want and what your calendar reflects? And part of that is going to be creating non negotiables. Can you create times in your day where you can say whether this is time for exercise, this is time for meditation, this is my time for journaling, this is my time for being with my kids, this is my time for practicing? What does that look like for you in terms of your needs to have a balanced lifestyle? And how can you create intentional time in your schedule that protects those needs? Number one, be committed to your own goals. It's easy to skip those when no one's watching, right? When you have to show up for other people, chances are you will, but when you have to show up for yourself, so many times we override those because no one's watching. And so my challenge to you is, if you're serious about creating an alignment in your life and balancing your family life with entrepreneurship, your wellness, all of that is going to happen when you start being as diligent and responsible with your own appointments, if you will, with your own goals as you are with your external appointments. Okay. And being clear and communicating those boundaries with people in your life. Sometimes we just want to respond to people all the time, especially if you're a parent, right? This idea that you have to constantly be providing and taking care of others. Uh, you want to make some time to share with those in your inner circle, with your spouse, with your kids. What are those non-negotiable times that you're building for yourself, right? How can you create that in a clear way so that there isn't a misunderstanding and then you're feeling guilty about taking time for yourself? Simply communicate that with those around you. People won't be able to read your mind. So don't get mad at people when they're not respecting those boundaries or they're trying to override them. If you haven't done a good job at communicating them, then you can't get resentful, right? So keeping that as a non-negotiable, and protecting that with those around you, it's the first step. If you protect your time, people will respect it as well. Now, it's easy to do this once, twice, three times. The hard part is to be consistent. And that's something that I'm personally constantly trying to look for. I can start something really good and be very committed for a first few days. The problem is going first past those first few days when things are new and exciting. How do you consistently keep things going down the road? What are the ways that you can ensure that when you start falling out of alignment, what will you actually use to get back into alignment, right? And how can you design those intentionally, knowing what you're going to need to do to protect that, right? You may want to track your time. If you are unclear on where is time going, I'm not sure, days are passing by, I'm not really sure, like, what am I doing? I'm not getting results. This is something that I do all the time with my clients and also with my team members. When we're looking at metrics that are not performing, is tracking your time. You can use a time tracker, you can use many apps and things like that, but it's just being mindful of how are you spending your time, so that you can see, well, right now this is why I'm stuck, because all of my time is spent towards this thing, and it's distracting me, right? And looking at this not only throughout a weekly calendar, but also maybe a longer time frame, maybe a couple of weeks out, right? Being mindful of that. Now, let's talk about bringing your family into this process. Well, if you're like me, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're looking for ways to create more freedom in your business, create more freedom in your life, one of the best ways you can do this is by finding ways of integrating your family into your business activities, right? Uh, Bringing your family into the things that you're doing in your business, whether it's having them participate in the events that you host, the things that you're doing together. One of the things that I'm looking into creating, and I'm going to be sharing more about this in the coming weeks, is a live event, right? I'm going to be putting together my very first live event. And chances are, if you're listening to this episode, probably there will be a link under the show notes where you'll actually be able to read all about my live event and check it out. But I am so excited about creating a live event for the very first time after 4 years of working online primarily with musicians around the world. For the very first time, I'm creating a live event. And it's going to be amazing. I'm going to be able to bring musicians in and teach and guide musicians on building and growing and scaling online businesses in a way that allows them to monetize their knowledge instead of their time. And part of this event, for me, it's going to be so wonderful to bring in my family and to be able to have my husband there, to have my kids kind of witnesses to a certain extent, be a part of it on and off. And potentially to encourage other musicians to do the same and to bring their kids and to be a part of the experience, right? Not just on their own, but with their significant others, their loved ones. And I think this is so important to find ways to bring in our loved ones into what we do so that they can be a part of it to a certain extent. My husband and I, we've built businesses together. Our first business was our brick and mortar music school Now we have our online program where he helps me with our clients, and we work in many ways together. And even if you have a spouse that doesn't necessarily do what you do, finding ways to involve your spouse in your own journey, listening to the trainings that you're listening to, having a spouse as a bouncing board, just being able to share ideas, brainstorm together, any way that you can involve your family, sharing with your kids what you're working on, what you're doing. Many times I'm listening to thought leaders and people that inspire me, my own mentors, and I'm listening to those, and my kids are running around and they're listening to those as well. And so being mindful that your journey as an entrepreneur, evolving your skill sets, does not have to be something you go on your own, right? So you want to look for ways where you can involve your loved ones as well and make it fun and make it interactive, and find ways to involve your community in what you're building. So you never know who can be willing to lend a landing hand and to be supportive or refer you to opportunities. So just being intentional and not just going through this journey on your own when you're building your business. It's really easy to just fall into becoming a lone wolf. And one of the ways that has I've been able to kind of keep this sanity to a certain extent is by being, communicative about what I'm doing, what I'm growing, how I'm evolving, and trying as much as I can to create environments for my family to be a part of the journey. Right. So hopefully by the time you're listening to this podcast, we've got everything laid out. If you see the notes under this comment, under the podcast, and you see the link, we're hoping to have it ready by the time this comes out. Definitely going to check it out because it's going to be such a great opportunity for you to come and be in a community of like-minded musicians and bring your family and just have such a great time in South Florida and connect with so many musicians that are in the same wavelength, if you will, right? So connecting with other ways of building self-care. A lot of the things that we're going to do in the event are not just going to be centered around business and strategies and marketing and finance and communication skills and AI and all the things that we're going to be talking about, but also about wellness and lifestyle balance and seeking that alignment, right? That pursuit of balanced lifestyles and being a musician and being an entrepreneur and being a parent and a wife and a husband, all the things. So I cannot wait for you to see more about this and to hear about what you want me to talk about in this topic, because again, there's a lot to cover, right? But do you have self care routines? Do you do anything? One of the things that I love doing is waking up early, having some meditation time, having some sauna time, going outdoors in the sun, bright and early in the morning, getting some sunlight in my eyes, doing some yoga outdoors with my feet on the grass, grounding, connecting with earth. These are things that I do every single morning to keep me grounded, right? What are those practices for you, and how can you be more intentional in building those in? And again, letting your support system know that you need those things too, right? So there's a lot to continue talking about this, but I hope that this has given you, number one, a chance to laugh a little because I think when it comes to the topic of self-care and balance, sometimes we get into this guilt like, oh no, I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not being enough. And I want you to take this with a little bit of a more lightheartedness, just a friendlier spirit. Take a deep breath. Relax. You've got this. You can do this. We are all in this together. And I definitely would love to hear what your takeaways are from this podcast episode. Let me know in the comments. If you loved this episode as well as our other episodes, leave us a review so that we can reach more musicians, help them build prosperity, a life of alignment, a life of meaning. And I look forward to hearing about your takeaways. And as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I look forward to continuing these conversations. And if you check out our link in the comments for all of the information on our upcoming live event, I would love to hear from you. And of course, welcome you and meet you in person in South Florida in a few weeks. Thank you for listening. Let's prosper together.